Yo, what's up guys? It's Burden here from Addict Gaming, and today we are going to cover a pistol thief build that I use in PvP and PvE. Now I do have setups for each one, so we will go over those separately. Now let's talk a little bit about the pistol thief build. Now the dual pistol build for a thief is a build I've always found to be very fun. Unfortunately, it wasn't always very effective. I like to categorize this build as an assassination type of build where we will be able to kill other glass cannon builds very quickly, and we can put a lot of pressure on points where there are multiple people because of the AoE damage we can do with the new and improved ricochet trait. Now there are a few things that you will need to know about this build first, and there are some problems with this build still, some problems that the pistol build has always struggled with. And most of the struggles come down to the initiative aspect of a thief using the dual pistols. Now our most damaging attack will be Unload, which takes 5 initiative, and we will have to spam that a few times to put out DPS. If you think about a lot of other thief builds, a lot of their damage comes from their auto attack, and they don't necessarily have to drain their initiative to get the damage out of their weapon set. Now the problem that this creates is that we will be so low on initiative that it's difficult to use any of our defensive abilities on our weapon set. So one of the biggest problems you're going to run into while using this build is how difficult it can be to manage your initiative, especially trying to outweigh the benefits of using a defensive skill over spamming your Unload, because a lot of the weapon skills in pistol cost at least 4 initiative or more. There's no skill that costs less than 4 initiative in the pistol weapon set. So just to cast a 1 second immobilize on somebody costs 4 initiative. That's way too high. They need to lower that. And we have a headshot, which dazes somebody for a quarter of a second. It's just to interrupt them for a quarter of a second, costs 4 initiative. The best defensive ability we do have on the pistol weapon set is Black Powder, but that costs 6 initiative, and it was just nerfed in the recent patch. But again, other than Black Powder, these are struggles that the pistol thief has always had. Now there are a couple of changes that actually benefit us with the pistol thief, and the first one is the increased speed of Unload, where we will shoot that skill 20% faster. Now, this is a buff, but at the same time, it can be a nerf if you're not careful, because with the speed increase, it makes the skill easier to block and also easier to dodge. Just like the rapid fire with the Ranger, even though it does a lot of damage in a very short time, it is a lot easier to dodge now, and if you dodge, you're going to end up evading most of the skill unlike before. But the change to Unload affects more in PvP as far as being careful of when to use it, as far as somebody blocking or somebody trying to evade. In PvE, it's actually a big buff because we can output a lot more DPS in a shorter time. The second change that helps us out is the change to the trait Ricochet, because they give us a range increase with that trait as well, where we didn't have that before. And that really helps out a pistol thief, because you don't have to be in the middle of everything. It helps you kind of stay on the outside, and if somebody starts targeting you, you can run away and come back in and stay far away from the fight, not having to take all of that AoE DPS. And they also fixed a bug with the trait Ricochet, where the third bounce wasn't going nearly as far as it should have been, so our AoE damage will be increased a lot by the bug fix of that trait. So overall, this build is very effective in PvE. I've played it in Ara and many other dungeons. It puts out a ton of damage in a very short amount of time. The build doesn't have much defense to it, so it does have a very high skill floor, meaning to say that you need to be somewhat skilled to play it, because you just aren't going to have many defensive abilities. You're going to need to know how to dodge at the right times and evade at the right times, kind of watching your opponent in PvP and dodging when you need to. It's a build with some sustainability, a build you're going to have to run in and out of combat. Don't be afraid to run away if you're getting low on HP. Our second weapon set is solely based on going into stealth. We use the dagger and pistol. And the only reason we bring that weapon set is if a situation is getting too risky for us, we can pop into dagger pistol and hop into stealth and run away. Wait till we regen a bit, come back into the fight and start again. Now, will this build be a high-end PvP build where you can play at a competitive level? No, probably not. They need to fix the initiative problems with the weapon set. I think the initiative costs are way too much, but it works perfectly fine in TPvP and SPvP. It's a very viable build in those areas. So if you like very challenging builds, this is definitely a challenging build to play, but you can get very good results if you put some time and practice into it. Okay, enough of me talking about the build. Let's get into it. I will start with the PvE build and go over everything PvE, and then we will do the PvP build. And remember, the world versus world setup will be the setup you bring for PvP. Okay, let's talk about the PvE side of our stats and our gear. We'll talk about our runes and sigils as well. Now, we are going berserker on every single piece of our gear, meaning to say power, precision, and ferocity. That will be every single piece of gear. Our armor, our accessories, rings, everything. Our weapons as well. For our runes, I like Rune of the Scholar. It gives us a lot of power and ferocity. We already have a very high crit chance in this build, so adding to power and ferocity will increase our DPS a lot more. And we get the 10% damage while our health is above 90%. For our sigils, I bring Sigil of Fire on the main pistol because it will add to our AoE capabilities. It has a lot of synergy with the Ricochet trait. And Sigil of Force, I mainly bring this in PvE because you can bring Sigil of Bloodlust if you like. Now the difference between Bloodlust and Force is Force gives you the damage up front. If you go Bloodlust and you get all of your stacks, you will end up getting more power than Sigil of Force. But in PvE, there are many times where you just go down by a freak accident or anything happening and you lose all of your stacks. So I think Sigil of Force is the safer bet in this scenario, but you can go Sigil of Bloodlust if you are confident that you can stay up and not go down and lose your stacks. Now for our other weapon set, remember this is our weapon set just for escapability and to get away, that's it. So I bring Sigil of Energy on my dagger, so when we switch to this weapon set, we will get more endurance so we can dodge, again adding to our evasiveness and just the whole idea of us getting away. And Sigil of Hydromancy, when we switch, if we have somebody in melee range attacking us and we're trying to run away, then we can switch to this weapon set. It will put chill on them, giving us a little more time to get away. Okay, so on to our traits for PvE. We have 4 in Deadly Arts, 6 in Critical Strikes, and 4 in Trickery. Now, of course, the idea behind going for our traits is to get as much damage as we possibly can out of our traits. For Deadly Arts, we have Serpent's Touch. Stealing inflicts poison. Now, the poison damage isn't anything to write home about. We're not going to get much out of that, but we do get the minus 33% heal effectiveness on a target. This is a little more useful in PvP, but there are enemies that will heal in PvE. Sundering Strikes. Critical hits have a chance to cause vulnerability. Now you have to remember that our unload actually shoots 8 times. So usually with one unload we could put 3 to 4 stacks of vulnerability on a target, increasing the damage that target receives by 3 to 4%. And if we're spamming our unload, after about 2 or 3 unloads we can hopefully get up to 10 to 12 stacks of vulnerability, increasing our damage to that target by 10% or more. Lotus Poison, weaken targets when you poison them, and this ties in with the Steel when we apply poison with our Steel. Again, this is weakness is a pretty good condition that gets overlooked a lot because you do decrease a target's damage by quite a bit. And Combined Training, dual skills deal more damage. That is a 5% damage increase, and our Unload is a dual skill, increasing our damage of Unload by 5%. Now in Critical Strikes, we have Keen Observer. Critical hit chance is increased while your health is above the threshold, and the threshold is 90%. So we get a 5% critical chance increase when we are above 90% HP. Pistol Mastery, deal additional damage with pistols by 10%. That one doesn't really need much explanation. Opportunist, critical hits have a bonus chance to restore initiative. Now it is on a 5-second inner cooldown, but getting initiative regen in this build is a very good thing, so we can spam unload even more. Combo Critical Chance, dual skills have an increased critical hit chance. Critical hit chance increased by 5%, and remember our unload is a dual skill, so that will have a 5% higher crit chance. For strikes, damage is increased while your current initiative is over the threshold, and the threshold is at 6, so what you would want to do when you're doing your unload, don't cast your unload when you are at 5 initiative, because unload costs 5 initiative. You might as well wait until you get to 6 initiative to get the 10% damage increase from this trait. Invigorating Precision, you are healed for a percentage of outgoing critical hit damage. Now this trait was actually buffed a bit It used to be 5%, but now they increased it to 8% for our healing. This will give us a lot more sustainability along with Signet of Malice in PvE. And lastly, we have 4 in Trickery. Kleptomaniac, stealing gives you initiative, and that gives you 2 initiative. Now, you're only going to want to use this when you are very dire in initiative because you don't necessarily want to steal and put yourself in harm's way. Flanking Strikes increases damage when attacking a foe from behind or the side. So remember when you are doing a dungeon or any sort of PvE content to try to position yourself on the battlefield to be attacking the target from the back or the side because you will be doing 5% more damage if you do so. Preparedness increases maximum initiative by 3. We are definitely going to need this in the pistol build. And Ricochet, one of the traits that was reworked a little bit. Pistol shots have a chance to bounce to an additional target, and the pistol range is increased now. So it does bounce 3 times. It adds to our AoE potential. We actually do a ton of AoE damage in this build. Now Ricochet can get in your way sometimes in dungeons because it can bounce off of a target you're attacking and hit a target that you're not attacking. So you have to be careful about that by pulling extra mobs. I wish they could put in a system with Ricochet to where it won't hit a target that you're not currently in combat with. So just keep that in mind when you are running a dungeon with this build. Okay, let's talk about the utilities that we will use in PvE, and then we will jump over to the PvP build in the setup. For our healing skill, we are using Signet of Malice. It has a very good synergy with Invigorating Precision. Remember that you do have to stay engaged to heal. And sometimes if you're not engaged, you're not going to receive any healing. So you might have to use the active, but I would suggest that you, by all means, try not to use the active because the passive is what's going to give you the most healing out of this ability. The first utility that I bring is Assassin Signet. Increases your power by 180, and that will increase the damage of our unload by quite a bit. I usually don't use the active on this Signet. Actually, on all the Signets that I have, I don't use the active. I think you will get more damage out of just using the passive. So you can mess around with it and see what you like, but I usually just rely on the passive and not the active. The second utility we have is Infiltrator Signet. And again, I bring this just for the passive. Regenerates 1 extra initiative every 10 seconds. And this will let us use our unload a little bit faster. The third utility I bring for PvE is Shadow Refuge. Now this really helps when somebody goes down and you need to resurrect them, or just you need to get out of combat. And it does have a little bit of healing. There's just so many uses for Shadow Refuge in PvE that I pretty much bring this in any PvE build that I'm playing for the Thief. And for our elite, I bring Thieves Guild. The Thief that does the unload also was buffed, just like us, with the speed increase of the unload skill. It just adds a lot of DPS, especially on bosses or one target encounters. It adds a lot of DPS. Alright, well that covers everything with the PvE side of this build, so let's jump into the PvP side. Okay, for the stats and the gear on the PvP side of things, it's very similar to the PvE side. We are using the Berserker Amulet. We're going to want as much damage as possible. And for our runes, we are using Rune of the Traveler instead of Rune of the Scholar. I really love Rune of the Traveler. I'm a huge fan of it in PvP and World vs. World. It helps you move around faster, getting from point to point. And it's something that a build like this needs, especially since we're squishy. It's good to get that extra movement speed running around the battlefield. For the sigils are exactly the same. On Pistol, we have Sigil of Fire, which is going to increase our AoE damage. And then we have Sigil of Force. Again, it's a safer route to go Sigil of Force instead of Sigil of Battle. But of course, if you want to get Sigil of Battle, then that's absolutely a viable choice. And then on the other weapon set, our Dagger Pistol, we have Sigil of Energy, which will give us endurance, helping us escape from risky situations, and Sigil of Hydromancy in case somebody is chasing us, and we can get away from them faster. Okay, here are the PvP traits. They are somewhat similar to the PvE traits, except we're taking 4 points out of Deadly Arts and putting them into Acrobatics. So critical strikes are the same. Keen Observer, critical hit chance is increased while your health is above the threshold. Pistol Mastery, deal additional damage with pistols, that's 10%. Critical hits have a bonus chance to restore initiative, allowing us to use our defensive skills and our unload faster. Combo Critical Chance, dual skills have increased critical hit chance, and remember that unload is a dual skill. First Strikes, damage is increased while your current initiative is over the threshold, and like I said in the PvE section, when you do your unload, make sure you have at least 6 initiative instead of the 5 because you will do 10% more damage. And Invigorating Precision, you are healed for a percentage of outgoing critical hit damage, and this will help with our sustainability in PvP. Now Acrobatics, where the change happens, we have Expeditious Dodger. We gain swiftness upon dodging, that will help us move around the battlefield a little faster. Vigorous Recovery, gain vigor when using a healing skill, and we are not using the Signet of Malice for PvP, we are using Withdrawal, which has a very short cooldown, so that will help us out getting vigor more often. And then we have Feline Grace. Dodging returns some of the endurance used, letting us dodge and evade more. Remember that dodging is the best damage mitigator in the game, so being so squishy as we are going to need a lot of dodging to evade a lot of attacks. And then Pain Response. This is a little bit of condition removal. The condition removal in this build is a little weak, so this helps out a little bit. Gain regeneration and remove conditions when struck while your health is below the threshold. Then we remove bleeding, burning, and poisons, and then we gain regeneration. In Trickery, it's the same. There is Kleptomaniac. Stealing gives you initiative. And Flanking Strikes increases damage when attacking a foe from behind or the side. Now remember, you can... there are a couple choices you could go here for PvP. For example, you could do Uncatchable. Because we will be dodging a lot, we can put caltrops behind us, and that increases our evasion and our escapability. And Instinctual Response, you could use this as well. When you take more than 10% of your health in one hit, you will pop into stealth, giving you more survivability. So it's really, do you want more damage, the 5% more damage, or would you rather want more defense in your build? And then Preparedness increases maximum initiative by 3. And Ricochet. Pistol shots have a chance to bounce to an additional target, and pistol range is increased. That pistol range is a huge deal in PvP. We don't have to stand so close to targets anymore. We can stand outside a point and just spam our unloads on the target. Okay, let's go over our utilities for PvP, and we are done with the PvP section. Like I said, for the heal, we are using Withdrawal because it's on a very low cooldown. It also removes Immobilized, Chilled, and Crippled. And it gives us Vigor because we have Vigorous Recovery. So we are getting 6 3/4 seconds of Vigor every 15 seconds, giving us a lot more dodges, which again I said before, dodging is the best damage mitigator in the game. You can dodge condition damage, you can dodge power damage, you can dodge everything. So for us as a squishy build, Vigor and dodging is very important. So that's why we go with Withdrawal. And Withdrawal also, you can use it to put distance between yourself and your enemy if you wish to move around the battlefield as well. The first utility is Shadow Step. I'm using this mostly for movement around the battlefield, and also it gives us a little bit of condition removal. We remove 3 conditions with it, and it is a stun breaker as well. Then we have Infiltrator Signet. Regenerate 1 extra initiative every 10 seconds. That will help us use our defensive skills and our unload more often. And you can use it to Shadow Step to a foe. Now, I usually won't Shadow Step to the person I'm attacking, but if I need to get out, a good trick is to target a different enemy that's farther away and teleport to him and then run away. And you usually can get out of that situation you were in before. The third utility is Shadow Refuge. It's just, in PvP, it's so good. If you need to res an ally, you need to stomp an enemy. There's so many uses for it, and it's got the heal and the stealth as well. So there's really no reason not to bring Shadow Refuge into PvP. And then the Elite, we bring Thieves Guild. It's going to bring us a lot more damage. We can put a ton of pressure on a point, especially if there are multiple people there with our Ricochet. And our Thieves Guild is just going to add to our overall damage. Okay, last but not least is covering the weapon skills. Now for our auto attack on Pistol, we have Vital Shot, and that stacks bleeding. It actually hits for, in this build, it can hit up to about 1,000 on a good crit. So the DPS isn't a huge drop when you go from Unload to Vital Shot. And you are going to have to use Vital Shot every once in a while just because when you run out of initiative, you're going to have to resort to your auto attack. So the DPS, of course, isn't nearly as high as Unload, but we do get about a 1,000 crit out of it. The second ability on Pistol is Body Shot, and I think this skill is a little ridiculous, especially for a 4 initiative cost. You apply Immobilize on the target for 1 second, and you stack 5 stacks of vulnerability, that would be fine if the duration was longer. The duration is only 3 1/4 seconds of 5 stacks of vulnerability. So for initiative, that seems extremely costly. If they increase the vulnerability time to like 7 seconds, then the 4 initiative might be a little more worth it. And the immobilize for 1 second, by the time you cast body shot and cast your unload, they're already out of immobilize, so you didn't really accomplish much by using your body shot. And the dual skill with the pistol is unload. Of course, this is going to be our main ability that we are using. This is where we are going to get all of our damage from, or most of our damage from. And this shoots 8 times. And remember, with some of our traits like Sundering Strikes, we can stack vulnerability with it, increasing our damage even more. This is going to hit targets very hard, and it works really well with the Ricochet trait. If there are multiple targets in the area, we are just going to do massive amounts of AoE damage. The 4th ability is Headshot, and this dazes your foe for 1/4 of a second. So you're going to want to use this to interrupt somebody's heal if you see them casting it. You think of like Ether Renewal for the Elementalist, or with the Guardian healing if he's not using Shelter. Those are things you're going to want to use Headshot for if you have the initiative for it. Again, that's kind of a reoccurring problem with the Pistol Thief, is that the initiative cost on all of your skills are just so high. And the last skill, the one that just got nerfed a little bit, is Black Powder. Now this is really good against melee characters, because if they're trying to put a lot of pressure on you, you can throw your Black Powder down and they will become blind and miss you more often. And also, you could use this when you are stomping somebody. If they're going to try to use their CC, they will become blind and they will miss their CC. So it's kind of like it's another way a thief can stomp people, kind of like a stealth stomp. But you could do this, you could use Black Powder and blind people instead. Now for our dagger pistol weapon set, there's only one thing I want to talk about, and that is putting your Black Powder down and then using your Heartseeker to stealth out of it. Now the initiative cost is very high for Black Powder / Heartseeker. That is a 9 initiative cost, so it is going to drain your initiative fairly quickly, but if we need to get out of a sticky situation, then you're going to need to go to your dagger pistol, stealth, get away from the fight for a second, then you can switch back to your pistol, and then run back in and start fighting again. Okay guys, that is it for the pistol build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and you will try out the build and give me some feedback and let me know how you guys enjoyed it. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe, and if you like this video, please like, favorite, and share. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully give you a good sense of what this build is like and if you will enjoy it or not. One of the positives of this build is that it has spike damage, but not in the sense of physical damage. It actually does spike condition damage. Within 1 or 2 clicks of our skills, we can put on roughly 5 to 8 confusion, 3 to 5 torment, 6 vulnerability, 6 stacks of bleeding, and a chill onto a target. Now having 8 stacks of confusion on a target is very dangerous to them, because when you think of like a double dagger Ellie, confusion is very powerful against them because they have to use a lot of